So this is when Cameron was broken out of his telepathic fucking conversation with Devin, and then went nutso-futso about his place in the universe. Say which build 7. Yes, it was. Okay, so back in November of 2022, the Echo Project put out this trailer on Twitter, and it was this slow, staticky buildup of this outline of a bear with someone screaming in the background. But that someone was me. I actually did a promotional bid with Echo Project. It was fucking awesome to be asked to do that. And that was really cool. And it was cool seeing what people saw, and it was just fucking cool, you know? Just being someone who was playing the fucking game, you know? And then to get recognized as someone who was doing that, and then to get pulled into like a piece of the history of the game, you know? Like, that's just fucking awesome, you know? So, and I took it seriously too, right? I was doing multiple takes. I was in here with the microphone, like doing in characters and stuff. It was, I pulled no punches in terms of trying to make sure I gave it my all in terms of voice acting. Like, I wasn't just sitting here reading a line as if I was doing a cold read. Like, I fucking went into the whole mindset of the situation and everything. And when it comes to reading lines, like, if you've watched that video, it was some intense stuff. It was great to hear you in the promotional material. Really did it justice given the context, and congrats. Fingers crossed for future opportunities. Here's hoping. I don't know how much I can actually talk about it, but there is something. Not for this, but there is something. There is something that has been confirmed for a game that has been on this channel before. I'll leave it at that. Pain sounds rhythmically in the head like a heavy drum beat, making the ears pin back tightly before they begin to whine. Then they croak as their sore throat protests against making the sound. Ooh, we're in the trees, and the trees are waving. They stare at the scene before them, then they blink. Oh, whoop. But it doesn't help them make better sense of what's in front of them. In fact, it seems to make it worse. Who's making sense of what's in front of who? These intrusive thoughts are about not existing. Who's having these thoughts? Woo. Oh, God. See, you're coming round. Jesus. I don't like this guy. I don't like him. Fear rises up in his throat, something deep in his brain telling him to flee that voice, to escape from it. But he's still too confused to figure out who or what he even is right now, because he still feels like nothing. Yeah, him already, right at the fucking beginning. But he's also still conscious enough to know that he is, in fact, something. There he is. There's the boy. He remembers that he's someone named Cameron. Remembers the situation, and he remembers that he's been drugged with shrooms and Xanax. His trip has reached its dizzying peak, his sense of self so utterly decimated that he isn't sure how he's ever going to feel the same again. The terror and torture of his past 2 days have culminated to this, the moment that his mind gives in and breaks. But Cameron can't tell what's real and isn't real anymore. You realize nothing's real. But there's something else, too. Despite the terrible loss of who he was, Cameron, this amalgamation that calls Cameron, is sensing things even more vividly than he had just a few minutes ago when he contacted Dev. Cameron sees what's ahead of him, but he's seeing so much more. In his mind's eye, he looks forward, and he sees a myriad of people in front of him, though they're all the same people. Devin, Brian, and himself, locked in a vicious, spinning blur of claws, teeth, blood, and horrific, unidentifiable viscera. It's confusing, seeing so many versions of himself and his boyfriend, and he turns his head to glance away, not wanting to see that violence. Then, noticing something over his shoulder, he looks back, and this time he sees one version of himself, along with Brian. He sees his unconscious body being pinned against the tree for a while longer before he crumbles to the ground. What the hell? His voice is low, husky, barely audible. Brian laughs, startling the coyote out of his visions of violence. I choked you the fuck out! That's what! Cameron blinks at the bear, then back at the forest. I thought I died. Not yet, kid. We got a few things to do first, and you probably want to see your boyfriend too, huh? Not sure you'll get to talk to him since he's knocked out. Knocked out? Yeah? Wait, with what? Relax, it's just... What the hell is that? No. Word of the day, folks. What the fuck is that? Gonna get on a watch list, looking this shit up. Do-do-do-do. Rohypnol, otherwise known as flunitrazepam, is a benzodiazepine used to treat severe insomnia and assist with anesthesia. So it to knock you the fuck out. Okay. Used for drug has been it's never been approved for medical use in the United States. Outside of the United States, it's used to treat insomnia. Yeesh. Causes blue tongue? What the fuck? Okay, I'm done looking up random ass drugs. Sure, I gave him a good amount, but they're a few decades old because they made them legal in the States back in the 90s, and you know, when pills get old, they don't work so good anymore. And Brian goes on and on about Rohypnol and how it used to be the premier date rape drug in the country. Jesus Christ. Insomnia pill date rape drug review with Brian? New podcast? What the fuck? Cameron watches the bear's mouth move in waves and ripples, yellow teeth poking out from behind his lips as saliva collects and becomes frothy at the corners. Who's watching this? Cameron reassures himself automatically. I'm watching this, and I need to save Devin. Not so convinced by the first part, though. And let's see what else we got. Or one, if you're talking in Roman numerals. Me. Okay, so it was I, me, myself, and I. Cameron. Simple concepts that aren't so simple anymore. Just like in high school, he stopped existing. It's different this time, though. The Xanax is certainly quashing the panic he should be feeling right now. But this time, his perspective is from a completely different angle. Cameron's amalgamation does still exist. The borders have dissolved and he seems to be seeping into everything. Despite already knowing he's insignificant, he's still awestruck by how small Cameron is compared to the world. Even the bugs crawling beneath the leaves make Cameron feel small in an entire world he knows nothing about. But entangling his identity with the universe means he's also entangled with Brian. The bear is missing parts of himself, kind of like Artie shattered pieces and jagged holes pockmarking the landscape of his life. Cameron almost feels sorry for him. That maybe if things had been just a little different, the odds just a little more in Brian's favor, he could have been a very different person. What's really disturbing, though, is the genuine affection he has for Cameron. His urge to caress and hold the coyote, but there's a hatred there too. A disgust for what Cameron is. Young, attractive, and a fucking word you're definitely not gonna get me to say. Not just queer like Brian considers himself to be, but a stop it. Okay, can we stop? I know this is speaking from the mind of Brian, but kinda queer that acts real cute before fucking over the real men who should be doing all the— what the fuck? Okay, again, this is from the mind of Brian, so it's all kinds of fucked, but Jesus. So it feels good to punish Cameron, but it's even better to watch him suffer, to watch the way his body rise, his mouth open for air, his eyes wide and fearful. Cameron feels himself recoil from understanding Brian's thought process, a way of thinking he'd never consider himself. But that thought process isn't what makes Brian the terrible person that he is. Cameron knows that most don't have a say in how their sexual interests and fetishes develop, so the thoughts themselves aren't exactly evil, at least not to Cameron. Cameron knew a few guys from college who had similar interests to Brian. During his first year of dating Devin, the pair had timidly asked himself if he could gently close his teeth over the coyote's neck and growl. It was thrilling and intense, and Cameron loved the rush. But then Devin had a nightmare about tearing out Cameron's throat, and that was the end of that. So to Cameron, Brian isn't all that strange. What makes Brian different isn't that he has fetishes. He's not crazy. He's not a psychopath. What the fuck are you talking about? Now the true root of Brian's evil is clear. He's selfish, and he's never satisfied with what he gets. This is a very strange read of Brian. Separating his acts into fetishes and selfishness, like... gotta tell ya, I'm gonna keep reading to see if they can make a solid point out of this, but right now, the hint I'm getting from this is a little misleading. Selfish enough to put dozens of young people through hellish torture until they finally died. All while having the capacity to fully control himself. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. All while having full access to alternatives like roleplay. Okay, sure, yeah. I mean, he was also psychotic. I mean, if you dismiss the idea that he's psychotic, then you are basing all of this on the idea that he had the ability to choose not to do this. But at no point has he ever been portrayed as not psychotic. So I don't know where you're getting this conclusion, other than the fact that Cameron just magically has the ability to read into people's minds. I don't understand this, but we keep reading. You never know what will be revealed. But it's not enough. He always needs more. All for his own fleeting, drug-fueled sexual gratification, because at one point, Brian decided that's what makes him feel good. So fuck this world that makes him feel bad. But he'd found some release in strangling Cameron, and now his focus is turned back to a vague idea on how to use Cameron's abilities. Something to stop him from spending the rest of eternity with his victims torturing him. Cameron could spoil the ending for Brian, let him know that when everyone dies, they just cease to be where they are. And that's it. Ghosts, demons, poltergeists, creations of the living, whatever that's in Echo. Cameron draws back at this point, getting overwhelmed by all the thoughts coming from the old bear, unable to understand them without more context. Looking forward, he glimpses the various scenarios again, and the one constant is death. Notice he's looking forward. He's looking at us. He's looking right at us. That's fucking spooky. Most involve him dying, and a good amount involve Devin dying as well. He's pulling a Doctor Strange on us. Cameron imagines that this is indicative of what's most likely to happen. But a few, just 2, in fact, show Cameron and Devin surviving, with Brian either living or dying. Cameron doesn't care much about the latter, just as long as he can get Devin and himself out of Echo alive. They can deal with Brian afterwards. Cameron doesn't even care much if he doesn't make it, especially in this state of mind, but he won't accept not being able to save Devin. Suddenly remembering what he had done earlier, Cameron tries to subtly brush his pocket and is amazed that the key is still there. Does Brian know? Well, he does know that what Cameron had planned, but in his own excitement, and especially because he's tweaked out, he's hyper-focusing on other things. He also missed the key being taken out of his pocket. That and Brian's memory is terrible. Decades of drugs and neurotoxic doses had dismantled who he used to be. Doesn't even seem to remember why he choked Cameron in the first place. Had to make a connection down to Sonora. Stuff was over the fucking counter there, so it was easy to get. But getting it over the fucking border is a whole different issue. And Brian suddenly stops talking, eyes narrowing. Cameron's pulse quickens as he wonders if Brian had just remembered his plan. What's wrong? His voice is still rough from the strangling, deep soreness still starting to emanate from the core of his neck. I know. I just like you better when you're smiling. But if I'm fucking boring you, just say so. Takes Cameron a few seconds to understand what Brian is even talking about, and a few more to scan the bear's thoughts. In Brian's mind, if his smiling has a lot to do with how interesting the bear's over-explanation of what is, Cameron quickly puts one on his face. Oh, sorry. It is really interesting. I'm just so overwhelmed with the drugs and... Shut up! Cameron shuts up. Brian starts to work his jaw like he's chewing something before clenching his fists. Cameron tenses up, preparing himself to be hit again. You're cute, but not that cute, and I'm not that stupid. I hate... Ugh. Stop. Fuck God. It's in his fucking character. You're not getting me to say it. Though that word like you, suck it up and sucking dick just so you can get what you really want. Brian's mind flicks through a few faces, but the only one defined enough for Cameron to comprehend is a fox in a red hat. What? And Brian seems to relax. But the anger is still there. Bear having honed it to become more cool and collected, which only makes it all the more terrifying. Sure, stimulants increase empathy in a normal brain, but if Brian abused them to the point that amphetamines feel like caffeine, then it probably only increases his irritability and rage. That's what his mother was like in the end. It always confused Cameron as to why someone would want to do a drug that makes them feel worse. I got a better idea. Oh, geez. Cameron gasps as Brian grabs him by the ear. No, stop! I can walk with you! I would try to run... Ah! Cameron senses the bear's amusement at his fear and of being pulled up by his ear again, and the coyote quickly stifles his begging, realizing it might shift Brian's interest back to using Cameron for torture rather than his abilities. The pain had been blinding, but it's nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to what this bear has done to others. Cameron managed to settle into a stumbling walk as Brian pulls him along, bent over and trying to see the ground in the darkness, all while he tries to carefully follow the bear's rough, unpredictable movements. For a minute or so, Cameron looks forward and sees the scenario he's aiming for, still within reach, so he keeps walking. Meanwhile, a van emerges from the trees, parked a ways off the side of the road. Brian freezes, staring. Then lets out a surprised laugh. Well, I'll be damned! The fucker got away! Probably talking about Artie. Who? Cowdy winces as Brian continues to hold him by the ear. Cameron hopes that he's talking about Devin, even though he can sense the presence of the younger bear just ahead of him. The Cowdy would be glad to be proven wrong about his abilities, especially if it means Devin got away. But Cameron knows. That cat! I swear I shot him twice, too! And again, he didn't do that weird jerking thing most people do when you give him the kill shot, so I must have missed him the second time. Maybe I just killed him with the first. Cameron looks where Brian is staring and sees the spot where Arturo must have been. Dark stains cover the leaves, along with what looks like vomit. And Cameron feels his own stomach churn at the sight. It's difficult to connect his outgoing, oblivious friend to that mess. And Cameron feels guilt mingle with his misery as he realizes what's happening to Artie is their fault. But he knows Artie is far away now, miles away. And Cameron silently encourages the cat to keep going, to do whatever he can to save them and himself, even though he's clearly in terrible shape. Cameron hopes Artie can hear him, even if he's awake right now. Cameron senses another ominous shift in the bear's motivation. Brian doesn't think Artie will make it to the interstate, but he knows he should go looking for the cat. But everything was so fucked from the start. 3 young men who likely have close family and friend groups, all 3 of them injured, beaten, and all 3 knowing full well what Brian is capable of. What Brian has done. There's no point to it anymore. Brian had almost reverted to thinking he'd get away with all of this somehow, but no. This is the end. Well, guess that's it then. Figured it was getting close for a while now. The calm to which Brian accepts his nearing demise makes Cameron want to try to escape all over again. Why can't this bear just end it without taking them down with him? It's the end for him, not them. Can I see Devin? Cameron half-heartedly smiles, hoping it might sway the bear. He's not paying attention to the coyote. Brian shakes his head at the sober version of himself. The version that actually did plan to let Cameron go. Because why would he add to his problems by killing the Yodi, and if said Yodi could take them all away? That's why he tried to be nice to him. And then, of course, things got out of hand. Cameron begins to shake as he senses Brian's arousal and excitement. He's thinking about Cameron, about the baggie full of bath salts, about how long it might take for them to find them, and Cameron blanches mentally, unsure of what that dark place full of death is, but he knows he does not want to go there. Where are you taking me? You're the psychic, figure it out! Keeping his hold on the coyote, Brian pulls Cameron toward the van. Oh, lordy. Oh, damn. It wasn't long before Artie realizes that the lights alongside the interstate are actually a lot farther away than he had thought. He has no idea how long he's been walking. It feels like at least an hour, and the road is maybe just a little closer. At this point, he's so weak, his movements so uncoordinated that deep down, he knows his body is about to give up. Every dizzy spell, every wave of anxiety, it terrifies the cat that he might have another seizure, and if he does, he knows he won't be getting back up. Artie, please. I am. Artie looks up, around, hopefully. Probably start crying right now if Cameron just showed up, only because he wouldn't be alone anymore. But then Artie sees a pair of headlights closer than the others. He gets closer, closer. Artie notes that the lights are coming right toward him. He doesn't bother getting off the road, feeling like this must be a light at the end of the tunnel situation. Oh, Lord. And then the lights slow and Artie hears the sound of an engine. Well, that sounds like Flynn. But we already saw Flynn. What the fuck are you doing standing there like a fucking idiot on the fucking road? Artie's ears twitch, recognizing the voice from somewhere in his past, in what might as well be another life. It's hard to tell because they're screaming at him. A car door opens and Artie just stands there, lost in the light. What? I told you guys to fuck off. First the fucking bar is closed because of some fucking cold. Okay, that's a COVID denier. Streaming a visual novel, that takes me back. No kidding, right? And now you're still here to fuck with me. I just want a cunting drink to cunting relax. Oh God. Oh no. Is this fucking... Is it Duke? Is that his fucking name? Or... I know, the fucking decaying weasel man. Arturo furrows his brows, never having heard of the curse word used in such a way. A figure starts to materialize in front of Arturo, and finally he recognizes him. Yep, there he is. I'm looking at my fucking old titles. Ghost Otters in the Road. That's so fucking stupid. Ghost Riders in the Sky. Ghost Otters in the Road. That's so fucking dumb. Hum along. What is this? Hum along if you feel like this was a huge mistake. What happened to you? Weasel stares at him, then tilts his head. Of course Duke would be a COVID denier. It's getting a little real, but alright. The weasel stares at him, then tilts his head to the side, squinting before reaching out and turning at Arturo slightly by the shoulder. Shit, there's no way. Couldn't be that fucking... Weasel trails off, then looks at Artie's face. Who did this? Artie reluctantly opens his mouth for some reason, feeling almost embarrassed about his condition. Bear... The weasel stares at him with an odd look. Bar? Yeah, I was at the bar. It's closed. Okay, the bar is what I must... Bear... Brian? Arturo nods and regrets it immediately as he almost falls over. Oh, yeah. You don't got a lot of brain in your head right now. You don't want to be sloshing it around. Damn, you're real fucked up, ain't you? Arturo stares back at the weasel and notices his expression like he's trying to decide something. Yeah, these two used to be allies. I don't know if this is going to be the aid you were looking for, you were hoping for. I highly doubt it, as a matter of fact. It's not the right reaction to the situation, and Artie suddenly feels like he might be in danger. Oh, really? This is the motherfucker that cut your brakes and made sure that you were here. All he remembers is that this old man had floored Devin with 2 swings, so combined with his current state, he can't do a thing. And the weasel seems to come out of whatever it is he was thinking about. Well, I'll be damned. This is it then, isn't it? That stupid motherfucker. Alright, get in, we're going to the hospital. Really? He's helping? I guess he's had enough of the, I guess he's done helping Brian. Arturo stumbles forward, and once the weasel realizes he's having trouble moving at all, he helps Arturo inside. This is irony. As he does, the weasel sucks in a breath, grimacing.
Jesus Christ, this is really making me not want to do what I'm gonna have to do after this. But you know, everything's gotta end eventually.
Yeah, I don't trust him still, especially whatever the fuck this paragraph means. Arturo isn't sure what the old weasel is talking about, but if he's taking him to the hospital, then at least he's on the right track. I don't know about that. Friends.
Yeah, I'll call it Peyton PD. To drop you off, gotta make sure I can beat him back, though.
Oh, maybe they got like a suicide pact. Because maybe they both gotta die, because they're both complicit. Arturo decides that that it's the weasel who's acting strange. But as the strange weasel starts to make a 3-point turn to drive back towards the interstate, Arturo is only grateful. She's doing a dance. He's done what he can. Now the rest is up to God. He can only pray. So he prays for Devin, Cameron, Maria, and himself, because if he survives, he knows the road in front of him is long, fractured, and broken. Yeah!